Congressman Greg Steube from House Judiciary and former Georgia Congressman Doug Collins. Congressman Steube, let's move to this. The insanity behind the crazy weak laws that let the Christmas parade attacker be set free on $1,000 bail after he allegedly ran over the mother of his child. Congressman, weigh in on this. Judges in Wisconsin cannot consider a defendant's danger to the community when setting bail, even for a guy with a 22-year criminal record in 3 states. They can't consider that.
Well, and they should be considering that. You don't see things like that happening in Republican-run states and Republican-run cities. This person should absolutely not have been on the streets. He was being charged with a crime he never should have been let out on. And that is what happens when you have George Soros and these other Democrats funding these elections for these left-wing socialist-type DAs that are trying to let people go. You see it happening in California. You see it happening with the gun crimes in Chicago. When you lift and you don't punish people for the crimes that they're committing, of course they're going to continue to commit crimes. It's basic common sense to most Americans, but apparently it's not common sense to them.
And Mr. Doug Collins, take on this. The Milwaukee DA, John Chisholm, he even admitting letting violent criminals out of jail would cause people to die. He is saying equity matters more when he took office in 2007. Quote, "You bet it's guaranteed to happen that an individual put into a drug treatment program could leave and kill somebody, but it does not invalidate the overall approach." So what is a greater civil rights violation than causing someone else's death? So the deaths of grandmothers and little children are worth less than his vanity, his egoism? They're worth less than $1,000 bail Brooks got? What do you say to this?
Oh, what I say is a DA who is completely clueless, and any DA that would actually say that, which is what he did, is made a statement that it was just hurtful. And it goes against those like myself and Greg Steube for Congressman who've actually tried to work on real criminal justice reform that actually punishes the crime, but actually helps people get back into society. But when you have a DA, and like we see in California, you have this DA up there whose own office let this person back out. There is criminal culpability, to my mind, on their hands because this should have never happened. Even under their own standards, should have never happened. So, for him to say that is, it's like making a statement like, one day it's going to rain. But the way you say it and how you say it is very important. And right now we're seeing the results of his liberalism and his callousness really toward enforcing the law. Not sure why you want to be a DA if you don't want to enforce the law.
Weigh in on the Ahmaud Arbery case. There was problems with the prosecution at the outset, but now justice has been served. This was an outrage for the nation to see what happened with such blatant racism in this case. Taking off Doug Collins, what do you say?
Yeah, I think we saw justice done down there. And I think for the American people, it's a time to see that our justice system works. And we saw it in 2 very graphic cases this week. Once with the Kyle Rittenhouse case, where the defense of self-defense was shown to be true. And then the claim of self-defense against Ahmaud Arbery was shown not to be true. And in both cases, they got it right. That's why our system does work. And for the left to keep harping on race and everything else, they can't keep doing this. Our justice system needs to work fairly because that's why it's blinded, so it can hear the facts and rule on.
Okay, let's get back to the Christmas parade attack. Congressman Steube, let's show the victims. They now include 8-year-old Jackson Sparks, Jackson's older brother. Tucker is also in intensive care, reportedly with the fractured skull. These images are heartbreaking. How does a DA justify prosecution deferral on Mr. Brooks? What data points is he using? What's his math that he's using to say it's okay to keep releasing somebody with a 22-year criminal record? And then we have this result. What do you say?
Well, I say it's a tragic loss of life that could have been completely and utterly prevented if the DA was doing his job. You have a circumstance where this individual, the facts of this case, he had like 20-something felonies that he had been charged of or convicted of or he pled to. He had a whole entire rap sheet, like 5 or 6 pages long, and then he has another crime that's pending. Why would you let somebody like that out on bail pending trial when he has a criminal rap sheet that's 5 pages long? Common sense, again, would dictate that this is not the type of person that should be out. This is not the type of person that should be out walking around to then commit more crimes, which is exactly what happened. And I think Doug's right. There should be culpability on these type of decisions that are made where they gloss over the fact of his criminal history, and then he goes out and kills 6 people and 40 people are injured. People are still in the hospital, and it's a tragic loss of life that could have been utterly prevented if this DA was doing his job.
Yeah, to the congressman's point, Mr. Collins, DA Chisholm stuck to his position that equity matters. matters more than dead citizens, even after his office was releasing criminals who went on to commit homicide. He supports deferrals for misdemeanors and low-level felonies to cut down incarcerations, but he's letting go violent criminals. And he's taking credit for inspiring a new wave of prosecutors doing what he is doing in cities like San Francisco, St. Louis, and Philadelphia. They're moving on same reforms. What do you say?
Well, what I say is this, I said he's got it wrong. He doesn't understand that true criminal justice reform actually takes into account those coming into our system. They're accurately charging, and they're prosecuting as they need to. And they're looking for ways to actually receive that justice that he talks about. But simply turning a blind eye or saying, well, we're not going to prosecute.
Okay, it looks like we're having some technical difficulties with Mr. Doug Collins. Greg Steube, pick up on what Mr. Collins was just saying.
Well, I think one of the frustrating things as a member of Congress is how the left-wing media has portrayed this as all racial. With the Kyle Rittenhouse case, it was all racial, despite the fact that he didn't murder, he didn't shoot at and defend himself to two African-American individuals. And now you have a situation where you have an African-American with a huge rap sheet who has killed Caucasian individuals. There's no talk of that whatsoever. We need to hear the facts. That's what Biden says and all these people say. Race shouldn't have anything to do with it. If you've committed a crime in this country, you should be held accountable. You should have your right to a jury. You should have your right to the prosecution to present evidence, and you have the defense ability to defend yourselves and let the jury decide. And unfortunately, we shouldn't have any discussion about race in this country. It should be about the facts and the evidence before these cases, and it should be found out. And we saw this case happen in two of these cases, one in Georgia and one in Wisconsin, and that individual never, with the cases that he had presented before him, never should have been out. He should have been behind bars. He never should have gotten bond, and those lives would still be there today if there wasn't that had happened.
Congressman Greg Steube and Doug Collins, it's good to see you.